on your what we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party.
1, 2, 3 in the place to be. It's your boy Talib Kweli. I'm the host of the People's Party. Welcome to another edition. As you see, I switched up my location. We are still in lockdown. I'm still rocking with the wonderful, the talented, the lovely Jasmin Leigh. Give it up for my co-host of People's Party, Jasmin Leigh. What's up, Jasmin? How you doing?
What's up? Where in the world is Talib Kweli?
I am at the person who we are about to interview's home. And let me tell you about this home. Boy, is it a spectacular home. Boy, am I having a good time here. Boy, is this person's house so comfortable and so suited to me, because it's one of my best friends. It's one of the most powerful, inspirational, influential people in my life. She is a poet. She's a picture of power. Everything about her is powerful. From Detroit, where she grew up at, to the words that she chooses. She is the author of many books. The Words Don't Fit in My Mouth. Alphabet versus the Ghetto. God is Not an American. Sunlight Through Bullet Holes. And right now she has a new book out called We Want Our Bodies Back. She's worked with myself. She's worked with Nas. She's worked with Young Jeezy. She is an Apollo legenda. And when you say that, you have to say it with the extra duh after the D. You have to say Apollo legenda. she worked on stages like Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center. She owns her own publishing company, and she did this early in the game. More Black Press, a visionary, fiercely independent. Her album Black Tea, The Legend of Jesse James, was put out on my label Javoti Media. Man, it's one of my favorite albums on the planet. She loves Black people. She loves the word. Give it up for my homie, my stromie, Detroit's own Jessica Care Moore.
We got a snap for this one.
Hello, peace and love.
Hello.
Thanks, Talib. What's up, Jasmin? I'm so excited to be doing this in my crib. Thank you, and welcome to my home in Detroit. Listen, I'm home, but it's I think you're like my first person that is allowed to be this close to me. So I trust you a lot, and I love you so much, Talib, and I appreciate you. And I've been looking for my chance to be on UPROXX. You know, I was like, well, can I get on the podcast? And so for you to come to Detroit to do this means a lot to me. So I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Well, you know, I took the COVID test. I took the antibody test to see if I had the antibodies before I came to see you and your son.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't just come out. Yeah, I wouldn't just come in from the world.
That's the only reason why we let you in. We know.
Right,
you know,
I appreciate it.
It's been real deep here and being safe. This is the most I've been on the ground. I'm sure you too, like not being on planes has been real interesting. My life has changed a lot in the last 3 months. Yeah,
same with me. I'm enjoying not having to be on a plane. This is the longest I've been on the road for 20 years. And this is the long from March till now is the longest time in the last 20 years where I haven't done a show or been on a stage or been on a plane. And this is a different feeling.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bugged out actually. I'm adjusting. But you know, these are the times that they need MCs like you. They need radical thinkers. They need revolutionary thought. And these are things that we've been talking about our entire career. But now, because other people now are joining in the conversation with us, we're, I guess, needed. And it's good. It's good to be needed.
Right.
And it's good for people to be amplifying voices that really need to be amplified anyway. Because poets generally are at the pulse of what's happening with the community, which makes us different than other artists, I think.
Now, what makes Detroit different than a lot of cities is the just sheer blackness of the city, and how there's a lot there's just a lot of Black people here who, you know, the city was, I forget the percentage of but Detroit has an unusually high percentage of Black people, right?
Oh, we're like 85 to 90% Black still, even with gentrification. We still blackity Black. And I live in historic Boston Edison, it's a historic Black neighborhood. Aretha Franklin grew up across down the street. Smokey Robinson grew up in the same neighborhood. You know, this is where the Black middle class bought homes back in the day. And so we still have a strong Black middle class. We have a working class population here that's very strong, white and Black. But we're predominantly Black city. If you just stay in the one area gentrified downtown, what they call Midtown, you won't know that. But if you go in the neighborhoods, that's where the Black people are. So we in the West Side, we're on the East Side, we in Southwest. Got a strong Mexican community here in Southwest, Mexican Village. I used to live in that neighborhood. And so because I grew up in such a very rooted in Blackness, a Black nationhood kind of space, when I moved to Brooklyn, New York was very different for me. I saw more white police than I ever had seen in my whole life. Because we actually here in Detroit, which is different than other cities, that we have black policing. We don't, in the last 5 years, it's not as great as it used to be, but Maricopa Young, I'm a Maricopa Young baby. So when people say they're a Maricopa Young baby, that means they came up with a mayor that was cussing everybody in the media out, that was desegregating fire departments and police departments. He made it, so we created the rule here in Detroit, Maricopa Young, that you had to live in Detroit to be a police officer in Detroit. And so I grew up with black teachers, black council people, and Mayor Coleman Young was my only mayor. I only knew black mayors. Mayor Duggan is our mayor now, but that's the first white mayor I've seen in my entire life. And I'm grown. And so Detroit is like a space. I mean, Martin Luther King did I Have a Dream here first. I mean, we've been on the front line of rebellions and organizing, and even in strong black music and literary arts. But we're not as big as New York, right? And so we're different from New York. We're different from California, and so sometimes we get overlooked. But if you're talking about black culture, the Detroit has to be in the conversation.
Now, how has that impacted your art personally?
Well, it completely made me who I am. I was, as you know, I have a really strong relationship with my father growing up. So when I moved to Brooklyn in 1997, I came with a lot already. I came very focused on institution building, even though I didn't know what I was going to build, but I started building more black press in 1997. After I came to New York and won the Apollo, got well known doing that. And then started the publishing house, and I published my first book, The Words Don't Fit in My Mouth, published Saul Williams, The Seventh Octave. And that's because I'm from Detroit. And that's because, they said that term, Detroit hustles harder. Like, we really, nobody gives us anything in Detroit. Like, there weren't like 200 open mics. It wasn't trendy. When I was reading poetry, I was reading at hair shows. I was reading at the ghetto clubs. I was reading anywhere where they would take the music off for a minute, let me kick a poem, and then put the music back on, because I knew the DJs. And so I was doing different kind of spaces in Detroit. It wasn't like guys that came to my poetry gigs wouldn't come to poetry gigs in New York. They weren't they weren't backpackers. They were like hood dudes. You know what I mean? That probably sold some weed or whatever. And they were just dudes. And those are and that's what I love. Like, my audience were like those regular people, our people, not just trendy, head wrapped. You know what I'm saying? Burning incense, like stereotypical. Like, this is what it looked like. So it didn't look like that.
Don't act like you ain't got no incense burning somewhere in this motherfucker.
I got some sage
I smell it from here.
I got sage up in this beautiful artistic home of mine. But it's still, it's my hood wonderland. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's a balance of, artsy and hood.
Now, speaking of spaces that poetry is not usually seen in or welcoming, that includes the Apollo Theater. That includes Showtime at the Apollo. I grew up watching Showtime at the Apollo, and you would see a comedian kill. You would see Stephanie Mills, somebody sing a Stephanie Mills song, That's who would win at the Apollo. You got up there and did this poem, Black Statue of Liberty, and you won 5 times in a row, where you had to, they had to retire the poem. Your Black Statue of Liberty is your get by. Like, that's...
It's like get by for me. I can't get by that poem, and that poem is so old for me. And graduated from Black Statue of Liberty, but I wrote it when I was probably 19 or 20 years old, right? I was a little girl when I wrote it. But it was a very strong poem. I'm talking about, I stand still above an island, fish straight in the air, scar on my face, long braids in my hair. People fly from all over just to swim near my tide or climb up my long flight of stairs, but they trip on their shoestring lies. Like, I was talking a lot of shit on the Apollo. And
it was really resonating. It was resonating with the audience. And that's what I think is impressive about what was happening, is that he was talking a lot of shit to an audience that wasn't exposed to that type of thing, but it resonated with them. Like they knew it in their bones and their soul.
Man, they shook my body with those claps. You know what I mean? I was overwhelmed. I was 22, and I was like, I didn't expect to necessarily get booed off the stage, but I didn't expect the reaction to be as strong as it was. I beat a rapping dog. There's a rapping pit bull. I beat him. I beat some Temptation singers. Listen, the rapping Rapping Dog had won like 3 weeks in a row. They were on like Dre and Dr. Dre and Ed Lover on Hot 97. I was like, yo, the Rapping Dog is on Hot 97. And they ended up bringing me on after I won because I was like, they got to bring, the person that beat the Rapping Dog and shit. And so it was more revolutionary in that moment than I even realized. I was so in shock from winning. And like, Paul Mooney was there when I won. Brandy was there. Like I was still in awe of just being at the Apollo. I was really there as a fan of this stage and have watched so many people as a little girl. And I mean, for 5 weeks, I did 3 weeks of Black Statue of Liberty. And then I begged after the second time to do Black Girl Juice. And that was different because normally if you're on the Apollo and you win with a song, you got to sing the same song. But I was like, I'm about to go out there in front of Black people and do that same poem for the third time. And so they let me do Black Girl Juice and I won again. And then they kicked me off. I never lost. After 5 weeks, Steve Harvey came out. Yeah, they're like, I'm a legend.
It's better to retire a winner.
And that's
Apollo
how they
legend,
felt, though. I think they all felt that way. Like Steve Harvey, Kiki Shepard, Ray Chu, and the crew. All of them were really excited that I was winning. And they were like, this sister right here, we're going to retire her. Because that's what we should do. So that's what they did. And I was sitting up in Harlem in my crib. Yeah.
It still has impact to this day. I think didn't Zendaya post that poem?
Zendaya.
Zendaya. Did I say her name wrong? I seen her in Spider-Man.
I might be saying it wrong.
She's beautiful. I love her. Yeah. And when she was 7 years old, she was doing Black Statue of Liberty. I think she was 7 or 9. She was a little girl doing Black Statue of Liberty in front of her fully white classroom. And she put it on YouTube. And so I saw that little girl on YouTube for years and didn't know who she was. And then she started talking to me. I think she was in an Elle or Vogue magazine referencing me in my poem. And I was like, that's the little girl, the little actress that's kicking butt right now. And I love her because I remember when those folks attacked her hair on that runway and they were giving her all this hell for having this beautiful hair, and so she comes from radical, Panther background. She's got like radical activist roots, parents. And so I'm not surprised that she was watching me as a little girl on the Apollo, but that's Talib, to be honest. I get inboxes almost every day about some young girl telling me they're normally like 20 now, right? 22 now. Right. I was 12, I was 15, which I don't like to hear that because it makes me sound like I'm old. But that poem did make an impact. I told young girls who told me that they were in abusive relationships, that they didn't know poems could sound like that they started writing poetry because all they knew were white male poets they were taught in school. So, and that's what happens to us, like Black women poets. We're buried inside, we're not in curriculum. And if we're in it, we're like one of us. Like they might give you Maya Angelou, right? They might give you one, maybe Alice Walker if you have a good teacher. But they're not doing Lucille Clifton, Audre Lorde, Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni, Jessica Care Moore, Asha Mandeli, Stacey Ann Chin. They didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like we are a curriculum to be taught. And so as an adult poet, my push has been, to really in education to like push back on these very white-centered, Eurocentric curriculums, and that we put Black women poets' voices in the forefront. Young girls shouldn't be having to come find me. They should be in fifth and sixth grade. They can start learning. Black Statue of Liberty, a fourth or fifth grader can do that poem. And so, so that's the work. But so the poem always has a life because there's always some young girl that can still get that poem, right? Even though I've outgrown the work. But We Want Our Bodies Back is my new Black Statue of Liberty, Right. For me.
Well, first of all, I'm going to make sure that my daughter recites your poetry. So you now I've got to worry about her finding it.
Thank you.
Rather than signing with traditional publishers, you right away was like, fuck that noise. I need to do my own thing. What made you, how did you understand the power of Black ownership and, to do your own thing and not really care about ever having to work with white gatekeepers? Yeah,
thank you, Jasmin. I mean, it's a great question because that's who I am. And that's my daddy. Tom Moore raised that girl. I watched him not work for anybody my entire life. He had Tom's Trucking. He had a cement trucking company. I never saw him working for white folks. He couldn't. He just didn't have the personality to do it. And I don't really have it either. Like I'm an independent spirit. And also, like when I came to Brooklyn and I was like tearing down microphones with everybody else that was tearing down microphones at Brooklyn Moon Cafe and Sunday Tea Party, and I knew that this was a special time period. Like what was happening with hip hop was special, and what was happening with poets was very special. And I wasn't going to wait for a white press to tell me I was valid, that my voice meant something. I already had done audiences. I'd already traveled and toured with Paul Beatty over in UK. So I was doing European tours before I even had my first book deal, before I gave myself my first book deal. I just never been, and I turned down Sony, Elektra, and another record label. Like I turned down 3 record deals after I won the Apollo. And so that's just, I didn't come to New York to get somebody to find me. You know, I came to New York to find poets. I went to New York to find Reggie Gaines and Willie Perdomo and Tony Medina and these poets I read in this book called the Aloud, New Eurekan Anthology Aloud. So I was going chasing history, right? I knew that poets had come from something. And so, it was just a deeper thing for me. And becoming an institution builder was just more in line with what I thought was the necessary thing for the moment. So I published in the publishing Saul Williams' first book after doing very well with my book. I came from a journalist background, so I knew how to write a press release. I knew how to say Jessica Care Moore, the girl with the braids. So everybody knew me the poem with the girl with the braids on Apollo. And so I took advantage of that moment. And I had a couple great agents, and they tried to shop my book. My book, I wasn't ready for a deal with a major house, or independent white mainstream house, I should say. And building that, I learned so much now. I published Saul Williams, I published Asha Mandeli, I published Danny Simmons' book, and Sharif Simmons' first book. And so I'm publishing Brad Walron's Everywhere Alien is coming out late in 2020. So I'm still publishing. I've slowed down because I really need to focus on myself as a writer and getting my voice out there, which is, the reason why I decided to give this book to HarperCollins, Amistad. So, because distribution, as we know in hip hop, is the key. And so without a distribution deal for More Black Press, it has been the beautiful struggle to make it easier for people to get to my work. And so that's what's been happening with We Want Our Bodies Back. So still doing More Black Press, still very independent. And all that independent energy though, that I've learned the last 20 years doing this work, I bring all that intelligence to my book deal. So I know how to talk to the marketing department. I know how to sell my work to people.
And you picked an amazing name too. More Black Press. That's just like perfect.
With my last name, More Black Press. And because we needed it, because in the 90s, when some of the hip hop artists were getting signed, the poets weren't. So there was no publishing houses really fucking with us. Like they were like scared of us. The voices that we are out there now that have book deals, at some point that there'll be a time where there's no way in hell they would give us a deal. And so now we see more Black people who are teaching, more Black professors, and we see more Black poets getting book deals, and we deserve them. So we deserve the shelf space. And that's where I met Talib at Nkiru Books.
Yeah, you walked into Nkiru Books and you sold me copies of your book. Words don't fit in my mouth. I think I bought 5 copies, maybe 10 copies. The book was $15. $15. We sold out of it because I was like, I was able to sell it to young people. Be like, that's a girl who won on the Apollo.
Yes.
And it's interesting because we just had Donnell Rawlings on, and he was like,
Donnell, I love him.
He was like,
back in the day.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He was talking about living in Fort Greene, how he couldn't get comedy gigs. He was like, I would go to the poetry readings at Brooklyn Moon Cafe, and I would do poems about all those fake woke motherfuckers who were snapping their fingers because the people upstairs was talking about
Yes, we had to snap. I don't even like the snapping. I'll be like, you better clap for me, because the snapping at Brooklyn Moon was because we had people upstairs that were hating on us. So Donnell was on the comedy scene, and Dean Edwards as well was on the poetry scene with us. And that's how I met Dave, actually, because so the comics and the poets back then were all intermixing. I was definitely doing the comedy clubs though. I remember doing Club Flamingo. I did poems at the Cellar. I did poems at all those little spots in East Village, and because it's one mic. Right. I remember Dr. Dre and Ed Lover, I think, had a show at Caroline's. They had a show that you used to host. And it was a comedy show, but they would let me come on and do like a poetry set in the middle of this comedy thing. I wasn't never scared of any audiences. Some people might be scared of like comedy audiences because my poems aren't necessarily funny. I think I'm funny between the poems. But I ain't never scared of no people, and a microphone, I'm like, all I need is one mic. It's a similar approach. It's audience and microphone.
Well, speaking of Nas and one mic, you were on Nas' album. You were on my album. You were on Young Jeezy album. Tell me about your connection with hip hop. Yeah, how you became like almost like the go-to poet for hip hop artists.
I don't know.
A rapper need a poem, you go get Jessica.
Listen, well, the difference between like those other people though, like, and I got a shout like Nas, the prediction and the outcome. He wanted me to open and close that album. And at that time, I was working on getting signed with Ill Will Records, which is what I wanted. I wanted to work with Nas in a much deeper way than just doing an opening and closing on his album. But I had my management at the time, didn't work out, it just happens. And so, and that was a good look though, because even when I met like Lupe Fiasco for the first time, Lupe was like, oh, I know you. You're the poet that was on the Nas album. So some people actually, that was their reference for me. It wasn't the Apollo. It was the Nas album.
Right.
I went to colleges. Right. And I was like, Afro Angels, How My Weapons and Tangos. They'd be like, oh, you the one that did that? I was like, yeah. So that was crazy, because Nas wasn't necessarily, he was a rapper. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I could see me working with you or working with most. Like, it's more.
Hey, what you trying to say? I'm not a rapper?
You're a rapper. But I'm saying, like, you're not like representing like Queensbridge Project. Like, come on.
No,
now,
I'm from Brooklyn, nigga,
Yeah,
I'm from Brooklyn,
and I'm friends with your mom.
Brooklyn got the best rappers.
Brooklyn has good rappers. Detroit got some good rappers too, though. We got good rappers.
Detroit rappers. Okay, let's talk about the Detroit rappers, because you came in the game going to the hip hop shop. Like, rest in peace to Proof. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Shout out to Maurice Malone. Friend. Like, break down.
I ran the hip hop shop, just so we're clear.
Oh yeah. Break down what the hip hop shop was and what that meant to Detroit hip hop.
Detroit hip hop. Listen, so I used to run the hip hop shop with Maurice Malone. I was his publicist at one time, and I used to open and close the shop. And so it was the gathering place for rappers and poets and dancers and culture right on 7 Mile. And so everybody was there. Like M would come through. Proof was good for me. Proof hosted the open mic. DJ Sabotage, DJ Head were the DJs. DJ Rowe. They switched out. So we had it was a retail clothing store with a DJ booth and a microphone on the floor. And we spent all day there. And so Maurice Malone was he's a big influence on me. I learned a lot, like running a business, because I helped him do a lot of his books. So I learned how to do payroll checks and all kinds of stuff from Maurice.
I used to buy his clothes.
Oh, Jeans Like Jesus. I still got my Jeans Like Jesus t-shirt, them overalls. His clothes were he predated like Tommy Hilfiger. Like I would argue.
Well, I don't know if he predated Tommy, but he predated Cross Colors and FUBU.
Well, I think Tommy stole from him. Like his
that might have been true. Yeah, that might have been true. That's most likely
sounds
true.
Sounds about white.
That sounds about white.
Sounds about white. Because his fashion shows were crazy in Detroit. We would have like dancing and MCing all between the fashion shows, and I never saw nothing like that. I went to New York and I saw a couple of people. I was like, oh yeah, Maurice was already doing that shit. But I loved him because he put Islam was like really like Islam and hip hop have a really rich history in Detroit that people don't know about either. So a lot of folks were like Sunni Muslim, converting to Islam. So Islam and hip hop had this deep connection. So all of us, like Baten and I remember being with Baten from Slum
Rest
Village.
In peace,
like,
Baten.
Rest in peace, Baten. You know all these people that I've lost, right? This is my friend.
Yeah, man.
I remember being in what y'all call J-Dilla, but we called him John Doe. So I was in John Doe was my friend, and J-Dilla was like this fabulous guy that I used to see in New York with like fur coats on. I used to be like, hey J-Dilla, but you still John Doe. But we were on the east side in his mother's basement, and I remember saying to Jay, I was like, listen, I want you to put some beats under my poetry. And he was one of the few producers and people who said that shit would be dope. We should do it. And I don't know if we ever did it, or he went away and he ended up becoming super famous. But but he became friends with all my friends in New York. So he got became cool with Chu and Erica and like all the people that I connect myself with as a poet. And so same tribe, you know what I mean? Just different cities.
Yes.
And so yeah, we've lost some great pioneers. I mean, I would say that Proof was like one of Proof. I saw Proof freestyle Busta Rhymes where he was with leaders of the New School at St. Andrews Hall, and Proof tore Busta Rhymes. Like Busta may not admit to this moment.
He may not agree. Busta pays tribute to the greats, and Busta loves Proof. I know Busta loves Proof, but I also know Busta's competitive. He's a competitive MC, and I don't know if he would agree with that, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, people don't understand the impact that Proof had on the entire scene, not just in Detroit, but Proof's impact was national and then it was global. And he just he's such an influential, impactful human being.
He's such a special person. He was actually supposed to drive me to Brooklyn. I moved to Brooklyn in '95 in my Ford pickup truck. He was supposed to drive and drop me off and take my truck back, and he flaked on me, so my girl ended up coming. So there's that. I'm not mad at him no more, but he was supposed to drive me off.
He still owes you a ride.
Right,
but it's deep, like a connection to hip hop. Yeah, man. I've been saying rest in peace so much these days in Detroit that it's like overwhelming, to be honest. But so good to see people that are alive and healthy, and good. I'm glad that you're healthy and that Jasmin, you're healthy, and that's. Because I've had a lot of loss with COVID-19, but just back to hip hop and my connection. I'm a hip hop baby. It's all in my work, and so I grew up a big fan of KRS-One and Run DMC, and MC Lyte was the goddess of all goddesses, and Queen Latifah, and I loved Rakim and still do. And what's great is I've been able to know Rakim, and he knows my work, which is just crazy to me. That I never thought in a million years that Rakim would know me as a poet, and he does. And it means
that's the God right there. That's the God.
That's the God MC. You know what I'm saying? I'm just the goddess poet. You know what I mean? So it's a nice little balance. But when I was a little baby girl, I didn't think I would ever meet these people and didn't even know anything about me. So yeah, it's a blessing.
What's your relationship with rap like today? Because I know rap gets a lot of criticism about, talking about Black women, but it's also a vehicle to talk about Black stories. Are you still connected to rap today? Like, who are you listening to?
Not many. I like Kendrick Lamar. I like J. Cole. I love Rhapsody.
I was just about to ask you about Rhapsody, because I'm sure she got a lot of influence from you.
I love Rhapsody. I don't know if she has or not, but I love her. I've done some shows with her in Detroit. She was here. We hosted her with my girl Piper Carter with the Hip Hop Foundation. No, I love her. I wish there were more. We just need more. I'm not my son is 13, my son King, and he tries to make me listen to stuff that I don't want to listen to. Kendrick was the first rapper that came out in a long time that I was like, oh, that got my attention. But I think that Kim, J. Cole, I don't know. Me and Talib be having arguments about I don't like a lot of it, not just because they're talking about women and misogyny.
No, I'm trying to remember. There was this one. There was. I'm not gonna say the name. I'm not gonna say the name. But there was a rapper that we was in the car for a long. He was on Europe in a long. We was in a long. We were going for a long drive, and I was playing a mixtape that had DJ Spinelec. Shout out to my DJ Spinelec. He's playing a mixtape that he made. Actually, now that I think about it, it was his mixtape.
Did he?
And it had this one rapper that he likes a lot, that I also like a lot. But every time this rapper's voice came on, Jessica was like, "Who is that? He is terrible." and it wasn't me. She just, as soon as his voice, she wasn't familiar with the artist. It's just every time his voice came on. And I'm like, what? I like it. She was like, well, listen to what he's talking about. And he really wasn't talking about much. But I was like, but listen to the flow and the cadence that he's rocking on beat. She was like, that nigga's whack.
I like none of that.
There's songs that you can. Funny. There's songs you can listen to the words and be motivated, and then there's also songs you just gotta listen to the beat and the hook and just ride out. That's just how it is these days.
She was like, "Who is this?"
I like Royce.
Royce is. Come on, Royce represents Detroit so.
I love him.
Oh my goodness, Royce is one of the best MCs I've ever heard in my life.
Come on, and people. I was with him, me, Royce, and Trick. We're at this press conference from Councilwoman Mary Sheffield. It's my first time. Shout out to Trick. Love the kids. And
Trick, love the kids.
And No Fly Zone is back intact. So he did mention that at the press conference that the No Fly Zone.
I didn't fly in. I drove in.
You good. We're not talking about you. He was talking about suburbanites coming into Detroit to tear down our city. And they go back to their house in the suburbs. So I was like, when people were talking about organizing Detroit, which is, of course, we need organizing in Detroit. We got to shout out Detroit police and what's happening here. But the suburbs is the worst of the worst. And we need to be in Dearborn and Southfield with it, because that's where I get pulled over all the time. Oakland County, you know what I'm saying? Cities are different. Detroit's not a perfect place, but it's definitely different. But Royce, I hadn't been next to nobody. And Royce came up to me and was like, "Oh, I loved your poem. Blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Thank you. Your voice is fine now. You're amazing." And he's like, "Can I get the poem?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, just take the book." And this man sent me $50 for the book. I love Royce by 9.
Good dude.
Yes, a good dude and a really talented rapper. And so and Big Sean too. I love Big Sean.
Big Sean is incredible.
Oh yeah, Big Sean.
Big Sean is incredible. Yeah. I want to talk about Def Poetry Jam, because I feel like you and the poets that you came in the game with really kind of invented that. Tell me about the beginning of Def Poetry Jam and how it became what it became.
Wow. So I was one of the poets myself, Black Ice, Steve Coleman, and some other folks who were asked to do the U.S. Comedy Festival by Danny Simmons. So at that time, we had done a couple showcases where Rakim was actually at one of them.
Right. And you put out Danny Simmons. Museum. You put out Danny's in the
yeah.
book. Right.
Yeah, I published Danny. I Dreamed My People Were Calling, but I couldn't find my way home. It's his first book of poetry and painting. So Danny Simmons was a part of the scene, right, in New York City. So I was doing events at Danny's house, poetry readings on his roof of his fly spot in Brooklyn. He was a gallery owner, ran Rush Philanthropic, always did poetry events at their space in Manhattan. And we took it out to the U.S. Comedy Festival at Aspen. Dave was there. Everybody was there. The Wayans family was there. And everyone was talking about poets. We did that showcase and everybody, I think George Lucas was there. It was bananas. But everybody was talking about the poets because here we are in the U.S. Comedy Festival doing this poetry showcase. And we killed. And they got the deal right after that. So I was in the beginning of it all. At that time, I was already, famous in my world. I was already a well-known poet, established. I was living in Atlanta. And so I came in the beginning. I did the first 3 seasons, and then I just worked to get other poets on, and make sure that every time they didn't say that most didn't come out and say from Brooklyn, New York. Can we not say from Brooklyn, New York the whole show? And so I worked on bringing some of those Atlanta and those Georgia poets, saying those people's names, the Detroit poets, helping to shape the show in a very organic way. I wasn't on staff as a producer, but I definitely was had their ear, and so it was great. It was, and we already were doing it. So yeah, they gave HBO's Def Poetry Jam helped us get some light on something that was already happening, and so yeah, I mean that's and I just did a great fundraiser with Black Ice. We raised a lot of money. Shout
out to Black Ice, of course.
Shout out to Black Ice. Yeah, we did.
You and me ran into Black
fundraiser. Yeah,
you and me ran into Black Ice in Amsterdam.
We did. That's where he lives.
We travel
now.
a lot.
I think he's a Black Dutchman now.
That's right. I spent Christmas vacation with you in Jamaica. We ran into. You ran into Dream Hampton. I did not. I ran into Cypher Sounds.
I did run into Dream.
Max Glazer. You had Allende Baptiste. Is that how you say his name?
Allende John Baptiste, one of my little brother, my friend for many years.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the young man who at the Million Man March did that speech. How old was he when he did it? 12? 14, something 12, like that? Yeah. With the afro?
The most, yes.
I had never met him before. Yes. I met him in Jamaica with Jessica. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, lovely.
Now, you spoke about Jamaica. Wanting to. Me too. We should go back. We should go back and do a versus you and me. We do it like Beanie Man and Bounty Killer.
Let's do it. I'll destroy you.
You talked about putting out other poets.
Absolutely.
Saul Williams was a fantastic poem and an icon back then, but he's even bigger now. Ian Thomas was just getting started in the poetry scene, but now he's like best-selling author. Ras Baraka is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey.
I published that book.
Right, so my question to you is...
Learn Love Hard. Yes.
Right. Do you feel like he was also on Lauryn Hill's album for reference. He was the teacher between all the skits. But do you feel like you're ahead of your time because you publish these people, work with these people before the world started to give them their flowers?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, I do. No, I was a young missionary.
But I do.
Yeah.
Pat yourself in the back, queen.
Let me give myself my flowers, okay?
Yes.
And recognize the work that I put in because publishing is thankless work. And taking my money from poetry and seeing what Saul was doing in the scene and like he wasn't getting a publishing deal. I was like, I'm a publisher. And Saul walked his manuscript over to me and said, let's make you the Hakeem Adabuti of our generation.
Yeah, shout out to Hakeem Adabuti.
Third World Press. Support Black books, support Black institution builders. And so I became that young, rowdy institution builder. So I did the 7th Octave. Marcia Jones did the beautiful cover, and she became my art director and did a lot of my covers after that. I did. And so it just made sense for me to do it because I had the hustle to do it. And I love to put out books. It's just very different. No one ever, so people think that I get I don't have grant money. So that back then we didn't get no grants. So I was doing it all out of my own pocket and doing it really for love because with poetry, I'm only going to sell so many books unless it's me. Like I sell a lot of books. And what's deep, Talib, about having this deal is that I didn't know how many books I was selling. I've been killing people from my house. Like really.
Look, words don't fit in my mouth. Sold 20K back then. And that's monster numbers for indie book.
Yeah, and more since then. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was killing crazy. It. And I didn't know I was killing it because I assumed people on a big white press, they must be selling like 100,000 copies. Right? Mm-hmm. If I could sell 20 and I'm just me in my Brooklyn apartment, then they got to be selling. But really, they weren't. And it's just that I sell books at like hip hop concerts in places where they don't have scans. So I didn't care about the barcode as much as like, that's all we want our bodies back. It's all about that barcode scan, right? Because people trying to get the book from me nonstop every day. Like, Jessica, we want to get that book from you. I was like, you got to get it from stores.
I'm leaving with this copy right here. I got my copy now because I tried to order it from my distributor because I got qualityclub.com and I got Incurable.
You got it.
And it was I got it up now, but I tried to order some more and they were back ordered.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to know that information.
I know he's coming with my copy too when you get back to LA, right?
That's right. Right.
There we go.
Yes. I got you, Jasmin. Absolutely. And the other books are really good too. I try to tell people, go to JessicaCareMoore.com and get Sunlight Through Bullet Holes and God Is Not an American. Those other books are just as strong, and that money goes all to my press. And helping my press helps me put out other poets. And so I got Brad Walron on deck, and I want to publish his book.
Shout out to Brad.
And so
very talented poet.
Great poet.
Great spoken word artist and great writer. Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, as one of my good friends, when I decided that I needed to get up and go to Ferguson in the wake of the uprising, the protest around the death of Mike Brown, you were one of the people I called. It was Rosa Clemente and yourself. And, we all went down there as a unit. There was other people, but y'all was my main crew. And we went down there as a unit, and we planned to spend maybe a day or two down there, but we ended up spending a week. And we ended up right in the middle of the protest. We ended up getting chased by the police. We ended up getting laid down, having guns pointed at us.
Yes.
Tell me about how that experience shaped you, and then connect it to what's going on now, and what have you learned based on your experience at Ferguson?
Yeah, Ferguson was traumatizing for me, to be honest. I've been an activist my whole life. I think I started my first anti-police brutality protest was for Malice Green here in Detroit when I was probably about 19 or 20 years old. And Ferguson, I've been in so many, we've been in rallies, we've been in protests. I'm Amadou Diallo in New York City. Like, I've been doing that work, but this one felt different. And so I remember that night we went out. I remember those AR-15s, those big guns that were at our back, and them making us get down on the ground. And I'll never forget, like, trying to find your hand. And I wrote about it in a poem called I Can't Breathe. That's in We Want Our Bodies Back. So, just to say, like, what happened to me there has shaped me forever. I was shook. I was shook as a Black woman, as a mother, as an activist. I really felt like I could have died. And it was the first time I was in a peaceful protest. And I was like, these people will kill me. Like, they're going to kill me for just walking out here. And so it did change me. But it didn't stop me. It just informed me. And I was like, this shit is very real. And it took me, I got home after we've been out there for a while, and I cried finally. And then I wrote this poem, I Can't Breathe, for Mike Brown and Eric Garner, just about how I felt as a mother and how afraid I was that I might die and who's going to raise my sons. Wow. And my son Omari called me there and asked me to please come home, which is actually in the poem. Like, Omari's like, please, can you just go home? Because he's watching it on the news. But I'm like, Sonia Sanchez had twins and she didn't go home. And so, women been on the like Rosa Clemente has a daughter, she didn't go home. And so, and Talib, you got children. But I think when women our mothers are on front lines like that, they get questioned in a different kind of way. Like, you're being irresponsible. And so I dealt with a lot of emotions, but, just to fast forward to right now, it's unbelievable how that poem, I Can't Breathe, has become the 3 words, right? That this brother, George Floyd was saying out of his mouth, that so many of our brothers and our sisters are saying, I can't breathe in so many ways. And it's a metaphor for me to just how it is to be Black in this country, like Black being a pre-existing condition, Black being something beautiful, but also this thing you have to carry. Like, just me trying to raise my Black boy free in this country has been the most tremendous stress. It has been the front line of my life, just trying to not have white teachers destroy him. And in Detroit, I've had to send him to private schools. And so that's been the struggle too. So it's all like, it's overwhelming because you think about motherhood. You think about, I'm just trying to be free. Like, I'm just trying to be human. And so it's been really difficult, like this time period right now, watching my son watch it and trying to get him off of it because he's very tuned in and he's looking at the police videos and he's getting taller. And all you do is worry, like when he gets 15, because he's smart. They don't like smart black men, you know, that know their rights. That he's like, Mommy, I'm just going to tell them they can't do that. I said, yeah, you can tell them, you know, baby. But all of us, you know, don't matter. They don't care about your BA, your MFA. None of that matters when you get pulled over. And so it's like, and just what happened with this brother in Atlanta, just like, you know, I get nauseous about it. But Breonna Taylor, like, which there isn't enough outcry with Breonna Taylor. We got that law passed, but, you know, like when black women and black girls die in police custody, and that happens a lot, then I don't see us like turning up enough. Like I want us to turn up more for black women and black girls. We Want Our Bodies Back. That poem is for Sandra Bland. That's the title of my book. It's about her. It's about me. It's about us, Jasmin. It's about our lives. Because we are the frontline workers, because black mothers take care of those black sons. And we are the ones that get us to the next space. And so it's, I learned a lot. I learned that the fight is real. I learned that activism isn't pretty. It definitely isn't celebrity. I don't like celebrity activism. I just can't stand it. And it's definitely not supposed to be one person. One person don't speak for us. Then I like that idea. Like, everyone may not agree with what Black Lives Matter is or who they're funding. People have all these questions. I'm like, the point is that our lives matter. Black lives were mattering before it was a hashtag. Yes. So, you know what I'm saying? Before it became a thing, an organization, it was still a reality. It was still something we were fighting against. And we've been doing that work as artists, activists, our entire careers. And so I'm still learning a lot, you know, but COVID-19 has been something. Like, to have to go in the middle of a pandemic, watching my people hit the streets. And that's something I'm saying that I'm not right. Like, I'm home with my son. I got to take care of my son, and his health is first. And so my mother's health is first. And so that I'm on pause on that tip. There's a protest that's going to happen with all girls and women. They've asked me to speak at. I'm probably going to go to that. I can't help myself. I'm probably going to have to go to that. But I have to pick and choose.
With your mask on.
With my mask on. People trying to hug me. I'm like, yo, fall back. You
back
know,
up.
Like, yeah, I'm not ready yet. And I think that I don't understand why black people are in a rush to get their hair. Like, my nails ain't done. I ain't had a pedi in 3 months, but I'm beautiful still.
You're still killing them.
I had a pedicure.
I had a
pedicure.
Listen, I ain't had one yet. Somebody come give me a pedicure, please, with a mask on.
Jasmin, are you trying to lift your toes? Is that what's happening over there?
Am I trying to what?
Lift your toes to show us?
No, I was not. I can't lift my toes.
Like, I got a pedicure. Hold on.
I
got a
pedicure. I definitely can't lift my toes. But I did get a pedicure with my mom, and I did have a mask on, and so did the lady doing a mask, and she's down at your feet, so it's okay. But COVID has been the main reason. I mean, besides the fact that I'm pregnant, that I haven't been protesting, because that's just too many risks. But you mentioned Breonna Taylor, and I just think that it's disgusting how they have a law passed, but yet these police officers are still running around. Like, you know, like, we want the law, but we also want them to get arrested and convicted.
Exactly.
Because that's what should happen.
And I'm really surprised by that Louisville mayor, because I met him. I was at the at this event with my son, with Raz Baraka and all these black men, this big positive event and called the Rumble, and Center for Black Male Achievement sponsored it. And he was there, and he sounded like he was all connected to the black community and about it. And
that's
I was
how
like,
politicians do. He's a good politician.
He is a good politician. He had me fooled. I'm like, what's going on, Mayor? And
I want to make sure that people understand that I said he's a good politician. That don't mean he's a good human being. People get
politicians
it
are
actors.
When I say that. they're great actors.
Exactly.
Talib mentioned that we spoke to Vic Mensa last week, and he talked about the aspects of protests and the rioting, and how we've been getting looted out of our. We've been getting looted for white profit for decades and centuries. So how do you feel about how people are protesting right now? What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's all fantastic. And what I told my son, because my son is Mahatma Gandhi, right? He is Gandhi. He's like the peacemaker. I'm like Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, and my thing is like Gandhi.
Yo, me and your son had an argument in Jamaica because he was trying to bring all the people together, and I was like, yo, you can't be trying to have conversations with the white supremacists. And he was on some humanistic. He's so beautiful. He didn't know. He didn't. I had to put him on.
You need both types of
Realistic.
people, though. You need both types of people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I love King.
You need all the people, but King is definitely the peacemaker in the crib, and my mommy is the wild one. And so what's deep is I gave him this analogy. He was talking about the bill. He was like, "Mommy, what about the people burning up the buildings?" Because I remember when the precinct in Minneapolis went on fire, I was kind of like, "Yeah, that's a nice visual."
Me too.
He was like, "Mommy, wait." I was like, "No, babe." I said, "There's no people in there. That's just a building." It's some good symbolism with that, though. And he was like, "But why? But what is burning the building?" I said, So that's what I told him. I said, "King, if we outside and mommy is on fire and there's a building on fire and the fire department comes, who you want them to put out first?" I said, "Because black people been on fire our entire lives." I said, "So a building can be replaced, but a person's life can't be brought back. And so the most important thing is that we take care of people first. People before buildings. And then those are things. Fuck shoes. Fuck some bracelets. Like that don't mean shit. Especially when you're talking about these young people who don't have access to your shiny shit that you put in their faces. They don't have access because of the poverty rates here, because of the economic disparity in black and brown communities. They don't, so they wish they could have those things. And now they're like, fuck it. Now I'm gonna have them things. I'm not hating on none of that. You know why? They have insurance. I was like, King, anybody that got a business that's got baller money, they got baller insurance and they're gonna be fine. I said, but George Floyd's daughter, Gianna, can't have her daddy back. That man in Atlanta had 3 daughters. Talk to the police about his daughters. But one just had a birthday. How are you having this conversation and shoot a man twice in the back after that? So that's, that's how I feel. Like, this is where we're at because we're finally exhausted from white supremacists. Yes, there is definitely institutionalized racism. I've been trying to teach that to my son, like teaching him like this. It's not about, because he's like, can black people be racist? I was like, no, they can be prejudiced or biased, but racists are attached to a system. They have power in the system to actually enact their feelings become power. I can have a feeling about a white person, but I can't do nothing to the white person because I'm gonna go to jail quick, right? But white people can have a feeling about what they think is a black person and not hire them for the job, not give them the promotion, not whatever the thing is, treat their child different in the classroom. So, which I want to pull us. We have to take back our policing and we have to take back these schools. Like we have to talk about defunding education. Like the education system is completely set up for rich kids. It's not about poor children making a difference. It's not about poor children can't just go to college. They're not. It's not set up for us. So college should be free. Black and brown people shouldn't have to pay to go to university or college anyway. That's reparations to me. If we're going to talk about reparations, like education is the front, like that's what it is. It's not give me a check. It's no, give me the opportunity to go to school. Like all brown and black babies should have the opportunity. When at one point, there was illegal for us to read and write, right? And so I don't know if I'm answering the question, but that's how.
I'm writing in Jessica for president. I know that much. I've made my decision.
I got the campaign. I got the campaign slogan. Fuck your bracelets.
Yes.
Fuck your bracelets. What?
Fuck your bracelets.
Anyway, I'm on fire. Like, let's go.
So Jessica has this album, Black Tea, The Legend of Jesse James. Now, Jesse, when you told me that you had an album, I was nervous. And the reason why I was nervous is because it's very rare to hear a good spoken word poetry album, but just in my subjective opinion. Right?
I agree. Yes.
Right. And so there's exceptions to the rule. I remember when Eargasms came out, which you were on.
It's a good album. Back
in the day, that album was very, very stellar. Every song on the album had something to offer, was substantial, was very good musically. Nothing was sacrificed for the message in the spoken word.
Absolutely.
Sekou Sundiata.
Master.
Yes, his albums, he was able to craft albums that felt like musical albums, but he was a spoken word artist at his core. Right. And of course, Gil Scott-Heron is probably the master
of it, right?
Of the genre. Your album, when you played it for me, it blew me away.
Thank you.
And I was stunned, and I wanted to be in business with you. And so we put the album out. Through Javoti
Beautiful.
Media.
Shout out to John Dixon, who wrote most of the album, piano player from Detroit.
Yes, he did a fantastic job. I'm on the album. Jose James, Wordsworth.
Yep.
Idea.
Roy Ayers is on it. Ideas on it.
Yeah.
My sister Blue was singing on it.
Imani Azuri, I think, is on it. Is Imani on it?
Ursula Rucker is on it, yes. One Below is on it. It's a killer album. That album is real. And I'm not saying it because it's my album, but I was trying to make the album that Gil Scott-Heron, who was one of my teachers and friends, would be proud of. And I know Gil would have loved, because I don't like poetry over beats, to be honest. When people send me beats, and the one song that I love on the album that you told me to write to actually became one of my favorite songs, Catch Me If You Can, right?
Produced by Brady Watt, who has made himself very famous with his Bass and Bar series on Instagram.
Bass and Bar, shout out. Yes, I love Brady. And he's hot on bass, hot white boy on bass, Brady Watt.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
But he produced the track, and I love the trumpet. So I wrote to the sound of the horns, because the horn and the voice are very similar to me. And I think the reason why, for me, I think the music worked. Brian Jackson and Gil Scott-Heron just had a thing. Brian Jackson was a killer producer.
Right.
And they found that, me and John Dixon went into Submerge over there on East Grand Boulevard, which is the home of the Techno Museum on the 3rd floor, and wrote that album in a little small space where he would listen to my poem and he wrote the chords around the language. And that's why it worked. Instead of me just dropping my poem over the beat, the way like a rapper would get a beat and you write to the beat, that album was written to my voice, because the musicality of my voice already has a sound. And like, so walking on 158th Street, like, little brown lady with brown eyes. I had been doing that for years. I wrote that line.
Right.
Little brown lady with brown eyes. So Chris Johnson just came. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, the album's beautiful. It sounds so good on vinyl. I play it often, to be honest, on my own record, but it's a good album. And I'm really so grateful, because out of all the rappers and people that I have worked with, you actually put my voice out there in a big way. And so I always give you lots of credit, whether you're never here to hear it, but I talk about you often, how much I appreciate that, because it's like, because men, rappers get like, hip hop artists get like a really bad rap when it comes to like women's voices. And it's one thing to ask me to open your album or close it. It's another thing to give me some bars. And I've been saying that for years, like, give me some bars. I want my publishing money. I know how this business works. Like, interlude may not get the same publishing. I want to be inside the song, but you did more than that. You were like, well, here, I'm putting the whole. I remember you calling me like, you want a record deal? And I was like, yeah, I want a record deal. Like, and because he was like, what are you gonna do with this album? And I was like, well, Talib, you're Talib Kweli. What you gonna do with the album? I knew it was good, and I'm really proud of the album. I hope to be able to do more. And but lots of the reviews I got, like this Canadian reviewer was like, we don't know what took Jessica Care Moore so long, but I really was working, as you know. Like, I worked with, I've been producing Black Women Rock for 16 years. So I've been doing like rock and roll with poetry, and doing. I've got a record coming out with Jeff Mills and Eddie Fowlkes. Actually, I got a techno record coming out in July called The Crystal City Is Alive, and Jeff Mills is one of the producers that I wanted to work with my whole life. So it's like a dream come true that I'm working with Jeff Mills. And so I didn't have any limits musically as to what I could do. But nobody said, I'm going to put your album out. I never would have had a meeting with Pandora to talk about a Jessica Care Moore station. Like, you helped open that door for me. So I love you, Talib, for like doing that.
I love you too.
And and I'm glad that you think the album actually was worthy of that, because I'm
looking forward to the next one.
We're going to do another one. It's coming.
Yeah, we went on tour, you said?
We went on tour, and I remember like it was really a good learning experience. Like, because I remember you and I were like, I perform more at universities and places of higher learning. And
not in these dirty ass nightclubs I was performing.
Not these dirty ass clubs and shit, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, it was deep down. Not the Barry. Nothing.
Fighting with the promoters.
Yo, your fights with the promoters are crazy. I be like, just get deep down inside with my own and my meditation.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
But we did Brooklyn Bowl together and with the band, and that's what that was amazing for me, because I saw all these young white kids in the audience looking at me like I was a foreign object, and I knew I was blowing their minds back. I had Stephanie singing, I think, and them horns came out, and I just remember them coming up after me like, who are you? And that's what's deep about the industry. Like, I've been working all over the world for 25 years, full time as an artist, and people are still discovering me, right. So, and that's the thing, and that's why, interesting enough, the reason why I align myself with Black women rock and roll artists is because I have a very similar lifestyle as Liza Kobe, as Deion Ferris, as Divinity Rocks, as Nick West, as Stephanie Christian, as Julie Dexter, where these people are like Celeste Henderson. I mean, I rock with all the black women who play rock and roll. You know, Kat Dyson and Nona Hendrix, who's a legend in it.
Give us context on that, because you don't just rock with them. It's not like you're just a fan. You actually organized for years, for like a decade straight, black women's rock. 16 years concert with many of these people that you just named come to Detroit. And you've done it other places other than Detroit, but it's a fantastic show. Tell us about this show.
You saw it in San Francisco. You saw it in the Bay. We turned it all the way out in the year Winter Center for the Arts. Black Women Rock is a 16-year-old black women rock and roll institution that's a empowerment rock and roll concert weekend that brings together black women rock and roll artists from all over the country, even outside the country, to play with about a 12 to 15 piece black women rock orchestra, musical directed by Kat Dyson. And I've been doing this work for 16 years in tribute to a woman named Betty Davis, who was married to Miles Davis, who actually I got put on to Betty Davis through Amir from The Roots, right? So
and you just showed me some autographed portraits that Betty Davis sent you personally that are hanging up in this beautiful crib that you have.
Thank you. She blessed me with these beautiful black and white photos and a beautiful poster, and she signed them. I love Black Women Rock, and to Jessica, and she actually signed a poster to Nona Hendrix. We took it to Pittsburgh. She lives in Pittsburgh, so we took it to we headlined the August Wilson Center at the Jazz Festival, Pittsburgh Jazz Festival, and that was a dream come true because I've been wanting to bring it to home to Pittsburgh, but annually in Detroit. But we've done it in New York City. We headlined the Apollo Theater, Women of the World Festival, and when you saw it in San Francisco, we got asked to come back again and do it that same year in San Francisco again. And so it's one of the best rock concerts you've never seen. It's high powered. It's all black women. Our staff is all 90% black women. And the stories behind it are so interesting because these women have literally, like Divinity Rocks, has played all over the world with Beyonce. But she's really a front person. So Celeste Henderson, who did my show, was just on Saturday Night Live with I forgot the new girl's name, the new pop star girl. But anyway.
Lizzo?
The new pop star girl, but anyway.
Yeah, Lizzo. No, I like her. I just
Lizzo, that's what you was talking about?
Yeah.
I was at that show, Jesse. I must have seen your girl. I was backstage in the rafters watching that shit.
Yeah, Celeste is bad, man. Celeste Henderson. But I mean, people are like, oh, the girl from SNL. I was like, no, the girl from Black Women Rock, she was just in Detroit. And so Kimberly Nicole, her voice is extraordinary. Yazara, her voice is extraordinary. Yazara, Jesse Wagner, these women I've been rocking with for years because they actually need space. People need to hold space for them. Mm-hmm. And they are healers. And Imani Azuri can hit many Ripperton notes. But I bring women that are skinny, are thick, are dark, are light, are in between, look all kinds. Everybody don't look like me. If I got too many light-skinned women on the bill, somebody got to go. So I curate it so that people can see that black women look like all the things, that we all don't have the same goddamn weave. Like some of us got natural hair, some of us got a weave, somebody got cornrows. But I would put this concert against any concert. And I've gone to some other big, concerts with lots of budget just to see.
I agree.
Nah.
I agree.
Yeah,
I watched
this killer.
The Black Women's Rock concert is so ill. I watched it on Zoom this year. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, did you?
I had to see it. You know what I'm saying? The Zoom call was a little hectic at first, but y'all got it together after a while.
Well, I'm trying to figure out a way
to do it right online. It's hard because we are audience driven kind of. You got to feel us because we sweating and all in your face with it. And so, but people don't know that black women created rock and roll, and that's what's killing me. It's like Big Mama Thornton. It's not like we're not taking over a genre. We're taking genre back. It's our genre.
I was just gonna say that I have a guitar, so I need to start practicing so I can.
Let's go, Jasmin.
Get on there. I can do one chord right now. Just give me some time.
So you get to 3 or 4, you know what I'm saying? And right now is a good time, Jasmin, to be honest. Kat Dyson is working with King. My son is learning guitar and she does classes online. So if you really want to get down, you should do it while you got a bun in the oven.
Yes, I've had it since September, so I'm ready to learn.
Hey. Now, Jessica, you brought up hip hop's connection with Islam and how that was impressive to you, how Maurice Malone did that. You are a Muslim. And so Yassine is my partner, and I've watched him. He's more Muslim than me. Yeah, probably. One of the more Muslim than me. I'm Muslim to a degree. One of the more inspirational things is watching him. Islam informs every part of his lyrics in a way that he is connected to his faith in a way that most artists are not, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And because he is connected to his faith, he's a man, he's a human being. He's not a perfect individual, right?
No.
But right.
I'm not a perfect man. I think he's saying
that's he even made a song about it. You know what's funny? I'm sitting here trying to explain. Yasin, and this nigga fucked around and made a song about it 20 years ago, explaining it way better than I could do it right here on this Zoom call.
None of us are perfect, and he's one of my favorite people, and I love him dearly. So
yes, to that lyric, do you sometimes? Because he has had a public struggle between trying to adhere to his faith and also be this charismatic, charming artist that gets all this adulation. That's part of why he changed the name from Mos Def to Yasin Bey, so he could be closer to himself and closer to God. Do you ever have that same struggle with your art?
I don't. The thing is, I don't, and I don't do that to other people. I mean, it's deep because there's this thing, people have this assumption because I'm a poet that, there's a lot of stereotype with poetry, like you wear a wrap skirt or you're burning, all that silly stuff. And when I started deciding to I'm going to wear tight clothes, I'm going to wear high heels, and I'm going to show up looking like a woman, and y'all going to have to just focus on Jesus or Allah or whatever to get you through this poetry reading, because I want to be my full woman self and be beautiful and feel pretty and still be a revolutionary. I remember being at a Black Women Rock, actually, I was hosting, and I said, I may not have my head wrap on, but I work in the prisons. What do you do? And so fighting against that idea of what it's supposed to look like for everybody, to make what makes people feel comfortable. Yeah. And I don't make people, because I know Yasin Bey, I know Mos Def, and I know Dante, and I know that being in the public eye is not easy for him. It's not easy to get scrutiny. I remember a sister was mad because of Big Booty. What's the song? Big Booty.
Miss Fat Booty.
Miss Big Booty. Miss Fat Booty. This girl was all mad.
Great record.
And I was like, I said, but I know him. He liked fat booties. So why should we do that? I was like, what's, I don't get that. What do you mean? And she was mad but she was holding him to his faith though, right? I was a Muslim man. He shouldn't be talking that way. And I was like, it's just really unfair when people are trying to be close to God in their way. It's such a private, praying 5 times a day. Yes. Being close to God has nothing to do with anybody else. It's not for your entertainment. It has nothing to do with someone's life as an artist. That's what you do when you're quiet. That's when you do when you tune it all out. And so anyone trying to reach that space should be just respected in that way. But perfection is ridiculous. I'm certainly not one for perfection, and I have imperfect male and female friends. And so, but he's one of my favorite people, and so I wrote for him at times. Yeah, and I've defended him many times. People will make comments even about his personal life where I thought it was completely out of line. And I'm like, unless you know people and know their business and know what they're doing for their children, unless you really know that, then you should shut the fuck up.
Fuck up.
Yeah, man, because it's really unfair. It's very, I got my own situation with my, I have 2 ex-husbands, right? But my relationship with them and my children that were a result of those marriages has nothing to do with any of my art or any of my, y'all not a part of it. And judging people based on what perception, people have kids. I don't know any of his children to be hungry. I don't know any of his personal business, but I know nobody's homeless in the street. You know what I mean? There's people that I know that got kids that got money that their kids are hungry, or you know what I mean. The baby mama is really struggling. So I don't know that, but when people go out of their way to just to judge people with not really even knowing they shit all the way, it bothers me. Because it's hard. It's hard to build relationships and have marriages and have children and then be in the public eye. And people, I got accused of having sex with almost every man I stand next to in a picture at one point. And it was deep. It's that's just, I'm friends with so many men. I have more male friends than I have female friends because I'm just that cool motherfucker. I don't know. I just, and I stay friends with people by actually not having sex with my friends. It's has helped me maintain very strong relationships with my Black male friends. Yes. And I appreciate and love them and they're not perfect. and so there's that.
Can you tell us about your foundation and your work with the Jessica Care Moore Foundation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a literacy-driven foundation that I founded because of the things I was saying about schools. I would go inside schools and I would see that girls didn't know who Alice Walker were. They never heard of Maya Angelou. They didn't know poetry looked like them. And so I actually do that foundation through my son, King. So King has a thing called the 12 and Under Super Cool Poetry Open Mic, where he gets together kids 12 and under. He's 13 now, so he's outgrown his own program. And we won a grant. And Jessica Care Moore Foundation is I facilitate the grant for him. But basically we do huge open mic, and we go to like the Motown Museum or to the Science Center, and we get kids 12 and under. I do all these workshops with young people, and then my son hosts the open mic. And so what I like to see with that foundation more of is really helping to build curriculum inside Detroit, New York, Seattle, Chicago, national public school systems.
We need some LA help.
We need some LA help. You know what I mean? Yeah, because we shouldn't have to keep on redoing it. And I can't be everywhere. So we need to build curriculum. And so I think that's the future of the foundation, is that and building more voices for youth.
Yes. In 2019, you staged an Afro-futuristic core poem that was set, yes you did, to Detroit techno music. You told me a lot about this. I didn't get to see it. It was at the Charles M. Wright Museum?
Charles H. Wright. Yep.
H. Wright. Now, tell me about why you chose to do that and connect that to the importance of Detroit techno.
It's all about the right now. It's so deep because the mantra for Salt City, the techno choreo poem, is "We the ones they couldn't kill." And so it's an Afro-futuristic techno choreo poem. Choreo poem, if people don't know, is poetry and dance. And Ntozake Shange and that generation coined that phrase choreo poem, and which was for color girls. And Ntozake, of course, one of my personal heroes. And so I wanted to write a choreo poem. And I wanted to write it in the future, though. I wanted to, like for Color Girls was in that moment. I wanted to write about Black people in 3071. I wanted to be able to imagine us in the future. And so Salt City is based on a salt mine, a city beneath the city, which is Detroit to me. Because to me, Detroit is like the heartbeat of all movements, but we're just the undercurrent that pushes other movements along. And techno is Black, right? Woo, y'all, guess what? Techno is Black. And so people don't know that techno is Black. And techno was created by my friends, right? That right up the street, Mike Banks and Juan Atkins and Derek Sanderson and all these incredible, Kevin Sanderson, Derek May and Jeff Mills and Eddie Folks. And there's countless pioneers in this work. But they brothers. They're like boots on the ground type brothers too. They're like Black men, strong Black men who created this music. And I grew up listening to it, and I wanted to tell the story of a Black girl named Salt, who's born into the salt mine, who goes to 3071, travels to the selective forest, and can't find her people in the future. So she has to figure out how to go back home to fix things so that we don't die off. And so it's a very heavy piece about colonization and about what's happening to our people, about our people being killed, about indigenous culture being written off, and it's about indigenous genocide. But it's just set in 3071 in the future. And it's beautiful, but it's techno the whole way through. So it's a 90-minute piece with a very short break. We don't have an intermission. We have a dance break where we make the audience dance to house and techno. And so it's a killer show, and it's aesthetically gorgeous. Aku Kadogo directed and choreographed it. She's the woman in yellow from For Color Girls, so there's history connected. I've been working with her on the piece for a long time. And Marlise Yerby came in from Rent and co-directed and choreographed with her for the Detroit premiere. And it's an excellent piece that I God willing, will see it in New York and in Berlin and other places soon. So techno is a Black culture, right? And people don't know that. People think of Europe when they think of techno music, but it truly is a Black thing that was created in my city. And so
the white version is called EDM.
I can't stand EDM. I can't do
really?
I can't do EDM. I can't do EDM.
I think of Miami when I hear techno.
Techno has the soul. You listen to Jeff Mills music. You listen to Mike Banks.
Right.
You can hear the church. You can hear gospel. You can hear the horn. You can hear the. It's something in it that makes you go, it's different. I can't just do the bang 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 for no reason. I can't do that. And so, I want to, bang 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 bang.
Rest in peace to John Witherspoon.
Rest in peace. Yes, his wife is lovely. I know his wife. Hilarious. So I'm busy doing that kind of work. Just in my imagination here in Detroit, like writing about a salt mine in 3071.
Speaking of the future,
Yes.
Shout out to my man King Moore.
Okay.
That is such a special guy right there. And,
I love him. He got into Detroit School of the Arts on a piano audition. I'm so proud of him. He's my son.
So he played piano too?
That's how he got into the school he's going to. Yeah, he's going to play for you when we're done.
What do he not do? Like the last time I seen him, he was doing magic tricks.
Magic.
Oh, wow.
He was. We were walking around Jamaica, and he was going up to people's tables in the restaurant like, "Hey, want to see a magic trick?" And would do a magic trick that would blow their mind. Like not just like not just like a amateur trick, like a real.
No. So good. He's really good at everything. You know,
is your son a Libra?
Hockey.
No, he's a cocky. He's a Virgo.
Oh, I didn't say cocky. I said hockey. He plays hockey.
Oh, hockey. Oh yeah. He's cocky.
He's a black guy from Detroit. He's
a black hockey player, and actually he's featured in the National Hockey League on the Red Wings.
Wow.
Featured him in this beautiful documentary. I'm talking about black young youth hockey and black players. So he's one of like the spokespersons for youth hockey in black rinks in Detroit, which is something really dope. He's been on the ice since he was 6, and it's his favorite sport. He plays other sports, baseball and soccer, but I play ball. I was like, you don't want to play no ball? I'm trying to get him to put that basketball in him, and he's like...
He also makes beats. And his beats are very good.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing that impresses me most is that he published his own book.
Wow.
And so I feel like he's like, that's the 2.0 part of you. So tell me about King's book and your relationship with King.
A piece of a poem, you know, his beautiful book. I started reading his journal entries when he was 7, and that's what made me pay attention to him. So it wasn't just I was like, oh, you're my son, you have to be a poet. I started reading this stuff, and I was like, King, this is really good. And I just kind of encouraged him. And then he was 8, and he was writing even more. And then he would come out to my readings, like how your kids might come to your shows. And I was like, King, come out and you want to read a poem for the audience? So he would be opening up for me, at 8 years old. And 9 years old, he was like, this is cool, mommy, doing the poetry for your friends and in front of audiences. Adults really, he was writing about heavy stuff. He's writing about death. He's writing about what's happening with, he wrote about Mike Brown. He was writing about very deep subject matters, about, he's really different from me too. So he's not as rowdy as I am. Again, I told you he's Gandhi. He's very peace and love with it. But he's attacking very, very serious subjects at a very young age. And I was like, well, King, what do you feel about putting together a book? And he said, absolutely. And he was like, but I don't want to read poems in front of grown-ups. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I want to create something that puts me in front of kids. And so what's deep is his poems are kind of heavy for kids. And I know you know this, but he's opened for Dave Chappelle twice. Like he did one show with Dave, and he was so good. I remember Stan Lathan was there watching him like, this kid just walks up like, you want to hear a poem in front of like 3,000 people? Like, I don't think he even realized what he was doing at that time. And then he was so young. I just, Dave, I was like, where are the headphones? Because he couldn't listen to Dave's show. But he was so good that Dave was like, have him do it. He's like, do you want to do it again?
Better not bring your kids.
No. He's a little older now, so I've let him kind of watch some of the stand-ups and get his own opinion. He has his own opinion about everything. So yeah, just a natural poet and writer. I think it's going to turn into songwriting. He's not as interested in poetry as he is in music. So his graduation gift from 8th grade is he's going to get a MacBook Pro. He's going to get we're debating Ableton, Logic, something he wants Fruity Loops. We're going to figure out.
Ableton.
And get music software. Ableton. You got to tell him that. Okay, you tell him Ableton. And so get him some music software, and then we'll see what happens. Because he was killing GarageBand. He was making great beats. He's rocked some parties. Actually, he's done DJ sets at the Electronic Backpack Festival, whatever. He did a whole half-hour set. So,
wow.
But piano is the instrument that he's interested in the most. And so, yeah, motherhood is like a really fantastic thing. It's been like a journey. And my son Omari Jazz, I want to just shout Omari out because he's an amazing activist, amazing music producer.
He's doing great work.
Doing great work. He took all the money from his proceeds of his album Dream Child and gave it to Black women or Black trans organizations who are fighting for Black Lives Matter. And so, he's 25. He needs all that money. Now I got to send him more money. So y'all go get Dream Child. It's on what is it? Bandcamp or whatever it's called. I'm so horrible.
Amari Jazz, Dream Child on Bandcamp.
Please, he's doing great work. I'm proud of him. And so that's, King is very similar. But but he's an interesting cat. So I'm interested in what's going to happen because he'd be a great lawyer with all the music. He's a really good debater and he does a lot of research. He's a Virgo and he's very smart. But yeah, he'll play piano for you a little later. But I'm proud of him. Yeah, motherhood has not been, it wasn't what I planned. I was married. I didn't plan on raising him on my own. Interesting.
Hold on, Jessica. I know you. Hold on, I know you. Yes. You was talking about I want a baby from the day I met you.
Oh, I wanted the baby, but the husband part is. I wish I wanted more babies, to be honest. Yeah, I ended up dating dads. I like dating dads because I like men who have children. When I date men that don't have dads, it's just weird. That I can't. So dads are sexy, and dads who take care of their kids are sexy. Let's just say that. Yes. So dads who are like good fathers. I roll with y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's like you're my type. Mm-hmm. And I've had stepchildren. And children I've helped raise and influence that I didn't make, and I didn't expect to do it by myself. And I'm a full-time working artist, and so that's why I live in this beautiful city of Detroit because my mother is here. So shout out to my mother and to my family here because I came home because my marriage was failing, my second marriage, and I had to figure out a way to make a living and travel the way I have to make money and still take care of my son. And so it's been a beautiful journey, but the struggle with his personality, I call him light-skinned Tupac. And my son is like a beautiful, beautiful, like you said, spirit, right? He's not a troublemaker, but he's also not a slave. Like he is absolutely free. And I raised him to be free. And these schools don't like free black boys. And he said to me once, he said, is this a prison or a school? He's like, why do I have to raise my hand? If I have to go to the bathroom, he said, going to the bathroom is a natural thing that everyone must do. If I have to go to the bathroom, I should be able to say, I'm going to the bathroom. Why do I have to ask permission to go pee? And so like this is he was 12 years old, like asking me these very, very sensible questions. And then you realize that some white teachers don't like when black boys start looking like black men, they don't like them anymore, because they feel threatened by them. And so my son has felt this, and I've had to fight with him. And it's this thing called the 1%. I like the 1%. So in private school, you got to get an 83 to get a B. So my son will have an 82, and like all his work is turned in. So I'll inbox the teacher like, what's he got to do for the 1%? I said, because he got an 82, he ain't got no missing assignments. I was like, because the white boys get the 1%. Because they could just say, on effort, I can give him the 1%. You know what I'm saying? But I got to, as a black mom, take time out of my schedule, and I got to pay that much attention. And I pay that much attention to the 1%. I'm going to need you to give my son the 1% so he can get his B. Because we rocking with honor roll. And I have to fight like that nonstop. And I'm exhausted from it. But I do that because that's what they do to our boys. That's what they do to our girls. And that's the extra work you have to do as black mother, being a black mother. That's the difference between being a white parent in this country and being a black parent. That I got to fight for that little 1% to get my son the grade he absolutely deserves anyway. So, but King is a joy. And whatever he ends up doing, he'll be fine. And I just pray the world gets better so he doesn't have to come and fix it. Because I think he's going to fix it.
Word up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I want you to give it up for Jessica Care Moore. It's so beautiful. I love doing this with you. Thank you so much.
This was an amazing interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope so.
We're going to snap for you like we in
people on.
Brooklyn Moon Cafe.
Let's act like we in Detroit.
Oh, you want the clap? Sorry.
Fuck that. I don't do that shit. That's for I'm not that hippie. I'm like hippie with a gun. So balance.
Word up, Jessica. Thank you.